Welcome back. I am your host. I am attorney Stephen Leahy, and this is the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560.
The answer.
I'm back with the gang, Deborah and Jim, and I think we're done ranting. Oh, but if we're
not done ranting.
If we start talking about the budget again, it's going to start all over again.
That's how it's going to be, ladies and gentlemen, from this show on, because it's discussed until we change it, and it's never. I don't think it's going to change. I don't think a challenge to all you voters. Like I'm going to do it every week. A challenge to every one of you voters out there. I don't think you could change it. I don't think you could do a thing.
I agree with them. I agree with that. Again, remember we had...
That's a challenge to you guys. Prove me wrong. Show me that I'm an idiot, because you know what? There's a lot that I don't know about, but I'll tell you what. I'm putting the challenge out right now. I don't think you're going to change it.
Remember we had Mark Lennon from wirepoints.com on here some months ago, and he was talking about bankruptcy for the state and for Chicago and for there's many municipalities in Illinois who are facing this same thing we talked about with Hartford and what they're trying to do. And they have the same problem that we have. That's the pensions. It's all of this, and it's not changing. And our only hope is that we can file bankruptcy and maybe change these things structurally, because that's going to be our only hope.
That is our only hope.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're our only hope. Okay, so anyway.
It's the blog segment. The blog. The blog.
Aha. So last week on the blog, I talked about our new favorite guy, Neil Gorsuch. I should call him
your homeboy.
I should call him. That's right. I should call him the chief, not the chief judge, but a justice, Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch is my new favorite guy. Right next to my guy Thomas, Judge Thomas. But Judge Thomas is not very vocal. You know, I don't know if you know this, but he doesn't ask questions during oral arguments at the court. I don't know. Did you know that?
No.
He doesn't ask any questions. And the first time that Neil...
Did I know that? I don't even know half the...
Neil Gorsuch, the first time he came in front of the court, he was asking questions more than any other new justice ever, they were saying. So he's very inquisitive and asking questions. And
you know what everybody said after he started asking all those questions?
What's that?
Now, everybody know I am the judge.
And he is the judge. And so last week we were talking about his first opinion that he wrote, and how I was very impressed with it, because he's an originalist and a textualist, which means he reads the text of the statutes before he starts making a judgment. He doesn't pass his own judgment on a matter like I think so many of like Ginsburg does, or Ruth Bader.
Sotomayor,
where they look at the outcome and then they try to tweak the law into making the outcome what they want it to be. Not what the law says, but what they want the law to say. And that, to me, is a very dangerous thing, because what you're doing is you're giving these these 9 unelected judges permission to come up with any law they feel like. And this is where we've been, and this is kind of part of the gradual erosion of our rights since the beginning. And I think that's why the Supreme Court is, we talked about this last week, Jim, about how important the Supreme Court is, and that maybe it wasn't designed that way, but it has become the court of right. The last word on any law is really passed by the Supreme Court. And now when the Supreme Court passes something, and if you question it, like Trump and say, well, hey, these judges, he's questioning a judge. How terrible. What a terrible thing. And then remember when he lost that to the courts, and they said, this ban is unconstitutional, and all the lefties said, see, we told you it was unconstitutional. It's unconstitutional. Then when it gets to the Supreme Court, we find out, well, maybe it's not unconstitutional.
It's not unconstitutional.
Because they passed it. So and one of the things that I really like about Gorsuch, again, not chief judge, but again, I want him to be the chief judge. I used to love Roberts, but he's kind of lost my favor since some of
it was never unconstitutional, by the way.
I agree.
We read on the show.
I agree.
We read on the show the law.
I agree. It wasn't. It was not unconstitutional. Never should have been unconstitutional. And yet that's where
the executive branch has every right to deem travel or to not pass travel visas to those that
because the law is clear on that. I agree with that. The law is clear on that. And so one of the things that are happening now, I've just lost where I was on because I had some.
Because I cut you off. That's my problem. You know what? And just going back into it too, it's amazing that we have Neil Gorsuch in there. Thank God we do. Can you imagine if Hillary Clinton would have won?
I agree with that. So let's talk a little bit. There was some other cases that he wrote. So we talked about the Santander case that he was involved in.
That was his first.
And he wrote the opinion. And I read the first, because what a great writer he was and how clear and concise, and that anybody can read it. You don't have to be a lawyer. You don't have to be a judge. You can read his opinions and understand what he's talking about. And again, I've read a lot of opinions in my time where I get to the end and you have to read it 3 or 4 times before you figure out what the heck they're trying to say. But there was a couple other important decisions that were in this last. Some of them he was not the majority. So, for instance, he was in the minority there was a case coming up about the Second Amendment in California. Does the Second Amendment give you the right to carry a gun outside of your home? And the 7 judges said, no, we're not even going to take that case. That's not something that we want to talk about, that we want to decide. We're going to leave that stand. And so in California, it's stood now that they don't have a right to carry a gun outside their home. And Judge Thomas wrote the dissent. And that's unusual that there would be a dissent even on a decision not to hear a case. Usually they just don't hear the case, and there's nobody says.
And then they don't have their opinion on that.
So but this one had Judge Thomas and Judge Gorsuch both signed off on a dissent, and what they were talking about is that and this is what Thomas wrote and Gorsuch agreed with. The framers understood the Second Amendment to protect little more than this. Then this is what the court said, that the framers understood the Second Amendment to protect little more than carrying a gun from your bedroom to the kitchen. Okay, that's not what the Second Amendment's about.
No, right?
It's about more than that. It's about being able to protect yourself anywhere you are, and they get off on this wild tangent. And again, I think that was a big mistake from the court not to even at least hear that case. Another case that he was on the dissent was. There was a case that they allowed. There was a law that said you had to only a biological mother and father could be on a birth certificate. Oh, go figure. Who figure? But the court said, "Oh no." According to Oberfeld was that case that allowed gay marriage. And they said, "Well, okay, based on that case, we can't. You can't." You got to let anybody get on the.
Well, that's not right.
And of course, that's not the text of the. And this goes to textualism. Is that he read the statute? Who says the Supreme Court did not say you can't have a law that says only the mother and father could be on the birth certificate. It didn't say that, but they're expanding the law again. This is what the left does to get their way. They don't worry about what the text says or what the case. They come up with some general meaning and then impose it all on us. So they said that having a biological mother and father on a law requiring the biological and mother and father to be on a birth certificate is unconstitutional. Now, how could that be? Do you think when they were, as an originalist, always goes back to the original intent of the framers and say, what did they mean when they made this law? What were they thinking? Do you think they were thinking, oh yeah, let's have birth certificates with 3 people on it? I don't think
they
were
thinking about it at all.
No, they were thinking, let's have 3 people on it. I mean, that was unheard
of. I'm pretty sure I can be safe to say is that the framers were just didn't even think about the whole birth certificate issue. It's just pretty simple. It's
because it seems so logical.
A and B equals
C. Yes, exactly. And it doesn't seem like you should be able. But again, they're changing the laws in order to get their way from sociological, and that's what we got to stop. And that's why the first good step was putting Gorsuch on the court. So I think that was...
Well, that was a little bit of the blog segment. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, if you enjoy the blog segments from attorney Stephen Leahy, you can always go to ChicagoTaxTeam.com. You can access those blogs at any time. Remember, ChicagoTaxTeam.com is going to be your hub to help fight the IRS. And also, too, remember, Open Tax Resolution is there to help you. 312-664-6649. Again,
I should have used more of his own language, and I'm going to do that next time.
Well, that's okay. Next time. It's our second time talking about Gorsuch. Anyway, we have a third segment coming up after this commercial break, so stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen, here on AM 560, The Answer.